All right, it looks like we are live here. Welcome into the League of Tomorrow Fantasy Football Podcast. We have a very special show for you today. We will be breaking down a listener league and every team in that league and ranking them on how well they can play out this season and moves they could possibly make. So let's just go right ahead and pull up this. And so ranked at number 12 is a team that's having a very hard time, and he will be rebuilding for the next 2 years, and he knows this. So if you pull over his team, you can see that at QB, he's pretty good there. He has Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson, and I mean, not much more than that. He does have some picks, if I can scroll over. There it is. So he has his own first round pick, which is huge because I do think he'll be placing last, 2 seconds, and then 225 first and 225 seconds. So there's not a lot of moves you can be doing with a team like this because he is just so far from competing. The only moves I'd be looking to make is normally I want these stud players like Justin Fields or the upside of Anthony Richardson. But with so much risk involved with each one of these, and Justin Fields as an absolute, high market value right now, he's one guy I'd be looking for if I can trade him away for a young QB that has potential to take away that risk from him. Because Justin Fields, if he blows up, if Anthony Richardson doesn't do it, you have nothing to build your team on. So this is a team where I have to split my assets, right? Splitting your assets from Justin Fields, let's say you can get Bryce Young, a first, and, a Brandon Ayuk-like receiver. I'm just saying a receiver in that tier. There's tons of it. Even like a Marquise Brown, I know he's on his team. But this is where you split your assets with him and see, test the markets on what you can do to fill out your roster because this team has nothing else much it can do. It's very blatant. So there's not much to say about that team besides that. And so let's go on to rank 11. We have, where is my notes? Kick ass. Oh, you got me to cuss on my video. Dang it. So Kick-Ass's team, he has Jared Goff and Derek Carr at QB. No real running backs. He does have Diggs and Debo. So the obvious moves to be making here with, no one on his bench pretty much. Just a couple second-round picks. He does have his 25 picks. So I'd be doing whatever I could to sell off the Derek Carr, Jared Goff. If I can add Diggs to a Jared Goff and go tier up at QB, and I'd be trying really hard to do whatever I can to get my picks back. And selling Diggs right now, he's never going to gain value. You could possibly go to an owner of the Josh Allen or, a team that's really competing this year and leverage the fact that they're competing and maybe try to give a big package deal where you give them, their third QB with a Jared Goff, Diggs and Debo. You could do a home run kind of deal with them, or you can even just trade them straight away for picks. But, your team's already stripped down to the bones, so it is completely time to make some moves. Jared Goff isn't going to do anything good for your team. He's not this elite QB, and who knows if he'll even be starting by this time next year, but he is holding a value of like a first-round pick. If I could flip him for that, I'd be doing that. Derek Carr isn't really worth much. No one's in love with him right now. He may be an asset you want to hold till in season when someone's QB goes down and leverage that fact if there's no one else selling QBs on the market. But you'll see in all these, bottom kind of feeding teams, that their QBs are usually bad. And on a 2 QB league, this is a start 10, by the way, start 10 league with 2 tight ends and 2 QBs. You're not going to make it anywhere without, elite QBs. That's just how this league works. Running backs, you can hold off on when you're this far in. They're not going to help you win. And so that would be my thing. It's just moving on from Diggs and Jared Goff, seeing what the market will give you. If I can get a first round pick, maybe from a competing team, you can get a first and a second round pick for Diggs. I would honestly be going to the owner who has your picks and hoping I can get my first back and a second to add, splitting these assets like we're saying. Debo, yes, he's good. People still really like him, and he isn't old, so he's not necessarily someone you have to move, but it's just such a high risk when he's this hybrid like player that, if he gets injured again, then you're left carrying the bag and no one's going to trade for him at that point because you're not injured till you are. So going in at rank number 10, we have Ragnarok Stars. Okay, so this team is built pretty young, and it's actually got a potential to go a lot of places. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, you're hoping at least one of them can be a Herbert-like QB, and if not, maybe both, maybe none. But they're two nice young assets to have on a, productive struggle approach. Now, having Drake London's nice. Hopkins is a good one to sell now while people still have the hype for him because he's leaving the Cardinals, and people are thinking, is he going to go to the Chiefs? Is he going to go to the Bills? So he's a nice asset to flip right now. The moves I'd be trying to make, because if you go down here, he does have his first, which is good, 2 seconds, so he has some picks too to build on. I would be trying to honestly sell Gibbs right now. If I was him and Aaron Jones, be looking to the market because when you're rebuilding and holding on to a running back, it's usually not the smartest thing to do. They're so volatile, and one year they'll be ranked super high. Like I have Gibbs, top 7. What if he tears an ACL? There's just things, and it's going to hurt you in the fact too that you have these roster spots filled. So you're going to place higher, but you aren't going to compete with this team. So they're going to hurt your productive struggle. Can I trade Gibbs for a younger receiver, or I don't want to necessarily re-roll in picks unless I'm offered a very good amount of picks for him. So I'd be looking to try to sell him for a youngish wide receiver, you name it, in that, let's say, Waddle range, T. Higgins, just less volatile assets. Drake London, I would be holding on to with this roster unless I'm offered something I really like. As far as Hopkins goes and Burks could go either way, so he's pretty good to have on a rebuilding team. Rachaad White, I actually really like his value, and I think he's a little undervalued because you're not necessarily going to get a first alone for him. But if you could go to someone with one of these bottom teams that have one of those projected early 24 picks and try to flip him for that and add something to him, it's a very smart move to make. Hawkinson in a two tight end league, I'm not necessarily ever going to let him go. Knox ain't really worth much. So the things you should be doing is taking your 3 running backs, and I would even be fine if I could take a Gibbs and a Stroud and go get myself an elite QB, because you have enough assets, but you also have your own picks, and you want to place early next year because your pick will be more valuable. So I'd be doing moves like that, Stroud or Young, combine it with Gibbs to get one of those elite quarterbacks, or at least go poke and see if you can. Let's see, who do you got down here on the bench? Yeah, nothing much on the bench. So I think that's it for this roster. That will take us to number 8. And boy, do I have something to say about this roster. Ash Suggs, you can't compete this year. Quit telling yourself you can. Go trade away Aaron Rodgers. You can't compete with these QBs. Sam Howell, I understand you think this 5th round pick is going to be something, but just the thought that you're hoping he will, and you are betting that these will both be 2 healthy QBs all season. No, it's just you're playing against the odds. And not only that, if you scroll down, he doesn't have his own 24 first. So when this blows up and Rodgers possibly not playing next year, so he has 0 QBs, that's a potential thing to happen without having his own pick to go and try to rebuild while you have guys like Dalvin Cook aging out. You cannot compete like that. You're going to screw your roster over for the long term. Whatever I could do, if I can add Jonathan, make a massive trade, Aaron Rodgers, Jonathan Taylor, and one of your wide receivers, and go get try to go the highest you can. Start from Patrick Mahomes, then go to Josh Allen, then go to Jalen Hurts. Try to get a QB, and then on top of that, I'd be trying to get my pick back as well, because I'm going to go for a productive struggle approach with this team, because there is just no way you're playing with knives and pens, and by this time next year, you're going to be like, man, I should have sold Rodgers. Why could I should have sold Jonathan Taylor. These are guys that have value still, but this time next year, when you need that value and you can't get a QB in the draft because you don't have your own pick, that is how you ruin a dynasty team. And I don't want to hear about Baker Mayfield. He is nothing. Really, I mean, you have a good and fun team to play with if you make your moves right. But just saying I'm going into the season with Rodgers and Howell is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. All right, so now we get to some contending teams. This is where it starts getting a little bit better. So at number 8, actually, sorry, we have one more rebuilder. We have, I flipped these guys, RK Beerines. I don't know if that's some kind of weird name joke that I shouldn't be saying. Let's see his team. So now we go down to RK Beerines. I know he has like no picks in the next 2 years, so he's really put himself into quite a hole by trade. I would be coveting those picks. He just made a trade recently to get like Mike Evans and Michael Williams. So it is an interesting thing. Yeah, any team can win, but you're going up with a bunch of bench running backs that really don't have value. You have very few moves you're able to do without your picks right now, and it's a very hard team to come out of. I have seen you come out with some deals though, and that looked pretty good. You were trying to get, I saw you were trying to get Fields from me when I had him by adding, like DK and AJ and stuff. That's a good move to make for you and try to get those assets. Maybe you were trying that thinking you could leverage these guys in season, but they're aging. These are guys you just needed off your roster. I'm not sure why you bought them. So what I'd be looking to do is definitely, what can I get? Can I package AJ and Mike Williams, or can I practice? I'd rather do DK, package him up with Mike Evans or something like that, and go out and get a QB. You can use Kenny Pickett and Mac Jones as a trade back. So they're getting a QB back. They can risk giving up a QB and then you can try to get a QB. But these bottom teams, like I said, they all need help in QBs pretty much, and they're playing with fire. So you got to be very careful with the moves you do. I mean that would be really the start of it. Can I? This would be a team. Can I get my first back? I'll give you, DK Metcalf for my first and my second. So now I got my first back, and now I can actually create a productive struggle approach team. That's kind of my advice for this team. It's going to be a lot of work for it, but it's not the worst team. That is why it ranks number 8. And now we go to number 7. Starts getting a little bit hotter with these teams. Chicks dig scars. As you can see, as Joe Burrow, perfect, not doing it, not moving him, not for anything, unless it's the craziest overpay. He does have all of his own picks, too, I believe. Yeah, he has all of his own picks. So he's got that going for him. Trey Lance, you can't really sell him for much right now, but there are some believers. If I can go out and get a 24 first for him, and then I'm, having that hole in my roster to push me farther down, because I wouldn't still want to compete with this team. This team, Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman, good receivers. They're all these good tier of receivers. Man, moves I'd be making. Get Travis Etienne, Walker, and Swift. I am hoarding running backs while not really being able to compete. So that's the first thing I'm doing. I'm taking running backs off these rosters. If there's a Trey Lance believer, can I package Etienne or Walker with Trey Lance and possibly get Herbert if somebody is down on Herbert, and then really get my QBs perfectly set? These running backs would be off my roster. I'm really, Pittman, Godwin, Ayuk, you're probably not going to get the value you want out of them. So I am fine actually holding these assets on this team specifically, it would just be how can I tier up at QB and how do I get rid of these running backs? And no, I'm not a running back hater, but when you are not competing, I don't want running backs on my team. I just don't. They're not going to help. All right. Now, this is where it gets a little bit fun. Going number 6 is dietary farts. So at his that is not your team. His QBs, he can compete this year. I'll go out and say that, but he doesn't have his own 24 first. He does have 2 seconds. Those are projected to be mid to late. Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins. How many years do you have left? Is Kirk Cousins? He's kind of just a guy to me. Geno Smith, kind of just a guy. How can I get better QBs? Well, you are kind of actually, J.K. Dobbins on your bench, Brian Robinson, you're hoarding running backs as well. Derrick Henry, Pacheco, Najee. Why do you have 6 running backs with all these holes? Why? There should be moves you're trying to make right now to sell those. It's funny. All these bottom tier teams have some of the best running back corps in the league. It's not playing the game right. Derrick Henry, he's done for after next year. You don't have your own first. Derrick Henry is an easy sell for a first to me. Can you add him, like I was saying with the other team, add him to one of your QBs to tier up? I don't know. It might take a little bit more. Sutton's trash. So if I could add Sutton, Henry, or Harris and one of my QBs and go move up. I'm QB thirsty guy. They are important and they last the longest to have longevity. Pacheco, he might be a hold till in season when a competing team is needing a running back. I can see that, but I would be easily shopping Najee, Derrick Henry, and trying to tier up. Devontae Smith, he's good. You don't really have any elite wide receivers either you can tear down from and, play that game. So let's see. Jimmy Garoppolo, we don't know if he's playing. Yeah, so there's not much more on your bench. This is just another team that needs to get rid of running backs. Now let's go these top 5. This is actually where I have a tier break. This is the elite teams that can compete. And starting with that, I have Cocktails and Dreams. Great QBs. Justin Herbert, T-Law. You're good there. I believe, no QB on your bench. You have your own picks. You have all your own picks, so this is good. You have Breece Hall, Nick Chubb, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Chris Olave, Dallas Goedert. You're missing a tight end, and Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is just a guy I want to sell. There's people buying him for a first-round pick right now. I don't think he has that kind of value. Breece Hall, I love that guy, so I'd be keeping him here as a competitive team. Yes, he won't be ready week 1, but I think he will be good down the stretch of the season. Chris Olave, you could on Chris Olave. He's one of those guys I don't like. I always like to tier down at wide receivers to pick up an extra first. Like you give Brandon Ayuk or Devontae Smith and you get one of those and a first to tier down from Olave. You're only missing about 2 to 3 points a game, as well as picking up that extra leverage of getting a first. DJ Moore is kind of DJ Moore. His value is his value. He'll do good on your specific team. So I really like this roster construction you have going on here. This team really doesn't have to make a lot of moves. I hate to say it like that, but he does. Yeah, George Pickens, can I get him off my roster? And Jahan Dotson. So you do have a lot of depth too at wide receiver, which would make me not want to move off of Chris Olave even more, actually. I would actually be trying to, can I add a George Pickens and a DJ Moore and actually, this is a team where I'm willing to tier up at wide receiver. Can I add both of them and get one of those elite, can I get into AJ Brown? A lot of teams don't have that, but I think Pickens sucks. I'm going to be honest. I don't think he will be worse. I'm not trying to just give up, this player's good, this player's bad analysis. It's just statistically he hasn't done well. He's a lower tier wide receiver for me. If I can package him with one of my, second to third wide receivers and get an elite stud wide receiver, it could really help you win the league this year. This is an exciting team. I think he'll make it far in the playoffs. So, number 4, our back-to-back champion. That's right, I ranked you first last year. Odd or Evan, you are now number 4. It is very close, by the way, with the next team in this. They're pretty much on the same tier, 4 and 3, with Patrick Mahomes and Daniel Jones and Russell Wilson at QB. Right on. Eckler, Barkley, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, Justin Jefferson. I mean, he has some studs that are going to score. Moves I'd be trying to make, though, is I would be moving. I know he did just buy Eckler. I'd be moving off of Eckler. Can I package Eckler and Russell Wilson up and worry about my running back depth a little later? I'm fine going into the season with Barkley as my stud running back and having Montgomery backing him up. For this year, you don't really have to make any moves to your roster's fine, but if you want to help yourself in like a longer season approach, when you have no 24 picks, you never make picks. I get that. You're a very big pick hater, but I would be personally trying to move off of Eckler and shopping the market for Daniel Jones. I don't think he'll do great. I would be taking this team and trying to just age back. You have, you're going to lose Barkley soon. You're going to lose Kupp. Kupp's losing. You have a lot of, degenerating assets, which is fine if you want to just try to go in and then rebuild next year. But I'm the kind of guy who's like, all right, I want out before they're worth nothing. I don't want to be caught with all this, caught holding the bag. Justin Jefferson, obviously you don't move, but like Eckler and Kupp, if you can go out and try to get an elite wide receiver for Eckler and Kupp. I know they're both elite, but they'll both be aged out. So if you can get, let's say, aim for the top. Can you get a Chase if you give Barkley, and Kupp? You might be able to for one of these competing teams. Now I have Chase, so I can promise you won't. But just a trade like that for sure. Overall, this is a very good team. Antonio Gibson. So he's got some depth at running back, too, so there's no reason to be holding Eckler. I'm surprised he kind of traded for him. I think that's enough on this team. Now, the man, the myth, the legend, coming at number 3 is myself. Very close for these top 4, but at QBs, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Kyler Murray. That's about as good as it gets. Then you'll see my running backs, because I don't like running backs. Tony Pollard, Devin Achane, and then my wide receivers are Chase, CeeDee, and Mooney. Now, you'll see in the start 10, I kind of just want to go for hammers usually. But what makes this team up there isn't the players on this roster right now. Because if you scroll down, I have 4 24 firsts, and 2 of those are from rebuilding teams that should be chomping at the bit to get their pick back. With the elite tight ends, this team is pretty set because I can wait till end season, right? I don't need to focus on QB. I have Kyler Murray on the bench. I have enough to go in season just as I am, and pretty much ride it until, I have the 4 picks of flexibility. So in the season, if anyone goes down, if I ever want to make a bigger push, I can use those picks in season and really get, players that aren't injured at that point, right? I'm not going to go buy them now because picks are liquid assets, and you want to liquidize your roster because if anything happens, you have those picks to fall back on. So it's a really well-constructed team, and those kind of teams are really fun to play with. Last year, it was supposed to be in a rebuild, and it placed second. So it's just there's just this team can just wait patiently till season, and it's my team, so I don't need to talk about it too much. Coming in at number 2, we have Tony Martu. Deshaun Watson, Jalen Hurts. All these top teams have pretty dang good QBs. Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon at running back. Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin's Amon-Ra. Well, this guy is aging out on a couple players, so obviously, like I said, if you get in my mind, I want to see what I can get for my players before they're aged out. If I could get a first and second off Adam, even as a competing team, I would do it, just for the liquid assets. He does have 2 firsts to play with. If he doesn't want to sell out and he wants to go in, like all in, he can obviously in season buy a running back. His wide receivers are fine, but moves I'd be making is, Adams, McLaurin. I'm shopping them. Can I get a first for McLaurin? 25 first? I would even take that. I understand it sounds weird when you're competing, but when you have so many bottom teams in like a league like this, you're going to probably get into the playoffs if your team is decent. So it's focusing on the liquid assets, liquidizing, and then going out in season with a big push. When people that thought like Ash Suggs, they thought they were competing, now they realize, well, crap, I can't compete. I need picks. Then you go out and sell them for you have the leverage in that. So it's just about getting leverage there. Amon-Ra, I'm holding. Amon-Ra is a player though, like I was saying before. Can I go get Devontae Smith in a first round pick for him? Can I get some more liquid assets and then while still getting a wide receiver back? That's definitely a move I'd be kind of looking around to do too. But overall, the team is in pretty darn good shape, and he has many directions he can go, having 2 first-round picks. And so that leads us to number 1. He actually placed last year. He tried the rebuild approach, and now he has 2 first-round picks to play with: Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, Matthew Stafford at QB, and Jordan Love. So he is set there. He's got Brian Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, Miles Sanders, Cam Akers at running back. I mean, that is way, way too many running backs. But for this season, it really helps. And the reason why I rank him first is he has so many things he can do. I would be taking Jacobs, adding it to one of my QBs to tier up. I'm always an advocate of that at QB. I'd be looking to also, what can I get for any of my running? I mean, there's no reason to hoard 5-6 running backs this early in the year. And while you have no receivers, I would at least shop them for wide receivers, to a competing team that may have a couple too many wide receivers. Because you have Bijan Robinson. I mean, keep that guy. He's a stud. He's a running back, but just on a different tier than everyone else. Josh Jacobs, he's going to be great this year, but with how many points are you missing from him, tearing down from him, and then having to start one of your bench guys like Miles Sanders, who should have a pretty decent year, or even Ramondre. You just have too many running backs, not enough wide receivers, but you got a good mind, and I know there's many things you can do with this. I mean, you can go into season with Watson and Lockett, but why are you doing that when you have so many running backs you can sell? And can I go straight up trade Josh Jacobs for a Devontae Smith? I mean, moves like that where I'm keep getting these wide receivers that'll last a lot longer, and it's not necessarily hurting my team with all these running backs. Great tight ends in 2 tight end leagues. You don't really want to trade either of these guys as you are contending. But I think that will wrap the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a good one.